This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
Hi, everybody. Good evening to all the viewers and listeners in India, especially in Panchgani, the beautiful tableland town surrounded by 5 hills. That's how the name is arrived at, Panchgani. And also to Mumbai and all the viewers and listeners in India. And of course, a very good morning to all the listeners in Cincinnati, in Chicago, as well as in Phoenix. Welcome to Storytellers Cafe, and I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman. So, we had a wonderful guest last week who decided to go back to her roots, to the agrarian community, and transform lives and tell their stories. Well, today's guest for the evening is somebody who believes in how many hourglasses of a life are we willing to turn over. Think about it. How many hourglasses of a life are we willing to turn over? Do think about it and put down your thoughts on the chat section. My guest for today, it is definitely a 26th January Republic Day special, is Mandakini Mathur. Mandakini did her MPhil in cinema studies from the Sorbonne, Paris in 1989. Based in Panchgani, a small hill station near Pune, India, she has been making feature and documentary films on issues of environmental concern, Indian culture, spirituality, and on child-centric themes. Mandakini writes scripts, stories, and poetry. We are going to talk in depth about these. Apa Aka, a documentary film or her first video feature film for 70 minutes, was shown in 2010. Mandakini has written the script for a feature film, Tiger's Cry, around the theme of Indian wildlife over a 70-year span. Her film River Goddess was commissioned for exhibition at a 9-month-long festival of Hinduism at the Tropen Museum, Amsterdam in 2006. In 2006 itself, the film was also awarded at the UGC-sponsored Educational Video Film Festival. Her book of poems, Radha, Poems of Love, has been published by Partridge Publications, and she's currently writing the script for a possible feature film on the modern-day adaptation of the mythical love story between Radha and Krishna. I'm certainly awaiting this. Mandakini is also working on a book, Imaging the Unimaginable. Quite profound. Imaging the Unimaginable, which is an exploration of the collective imagination and faith of the subcontinent through the idea of Shiva and its expression in the arts. Mandakini has produced English Teaching Audiovisual Resource material for children from the marginalized communities and vernacular medium schools. She also teaches communication skills to high school students, where filmmaking is used as a means of exploring reality around them. Mandakini has also written and directed several plays, many of which have been performed as street plays. In 2009, Mandakini founded Devrai Art Village, an NGO that strives to empower tribal craftsmen through their art, experimenting with different mediums and designs and evolving traditional art forms to suit modern sensibilities is its hallmark. Devarai Rock Dokra, which is under patent process, is a never tried before technology for fusing stone and brass. Devrai Art Village has today grown into a training center for tribal artisans from remote places. It has workshops and art residencies customized for design art interns from the mainstream educational centers as well as school children. If I were asked to describe Mandakini, I would say she sculpts or gets designs to sculpt stones, terracotta and brass fusions and casts them, and also broken pieces of pottery get transformed into pendants and jewelry. And she evolves traditions, even using the physics principle of balancing to evolve traditions. Mandakini takes inspiration from nature, and art is a powerful medium to commune and connect and sensitize people about conservation. And we are going to talk about this today. She has taken traditions to new realms. She bridges the indigenous to the modern, Mohenjo-daro to Mumbai, and all to keep our tradition alive. Storytellers Cafe is indeed privileged and proud and honored to welcome Mandakini Mathur to our studios for this Republic Day special. Welcome, Mandakini.
Hello, everybody. It is indeed a privilege to be a guest at Storytellers Cafe. Just as the Republic Day guest, it's really special. Jumega Bharat, Sachi. I'm also Jumoing now, and it's lovely to be with you all. And the what all Usha read about me, I mean, I had to think, oh God, that has been such a long journey. Yeah, and she suddenly showed a mirror to my own life's journey. Thanks, Usha, for such a warm welcome.
Thank you. It is just the truth. Actually, a short 3-minute introduction doesn't do justice to Mandakini, whom I consider to be my soul sister. Had the privilege of meeting her 2 years back, and our association has only grown and continued. And it is my honor to have you here, Mandakini. Mandakini, like we say, let's start at the very beginning, a good place to start, right? So, Mandakini, can you tell us a bit about after studying in Delhi University, and if I'm not mistaken, at JNU, how did
Yes.
your trajectory to Sorbonne and then back to India and finally in Panchgani take place?
Well, JNU, I did my French master's, and then with cinema as a subject, I went to Sorbonne to do my MPhil. And coming to Panchgani, I don't know, there have been so many twists and turns that, and especially coming to Panchgani, it seems as if it were preordained. I must have had some last birth's connection, because otherwise, why would a person who was born in Kathmandu, my mother is from Nepal, who grew up in Gwalior, then studied in Delhi, then post-marriage I was in Bombay, teaching French there, in fact, and suddenly be drawn to this little town of Panchgani, and now I think I belong to this place. It's as if one has struck roots here. So, yeah, it's been a long journey. And when we decided to quit Mumbai, my husband and two kids, two boys who were very small then, it was quite a plunge into the dark, deep end. And Atul was in advertising, and I knew I could sustain, I could teach French or do something. But for him, it was really a plunge into the dark and deep end. And we were prepared that if it didn't work out, we would go back. But thankfully, I think with a lot of luck and blessings, it did work out. And we are happily settled here. The kids have grown up. They have their own career. And it so happens that both of them have chosen to make Panchgani their home and work from here. Our elder son is a UX designer, and the younger one is a filmmaker, yes. And Atul, he is into corporate training. So it's worked out all well for us. Yeah.
Wonderful, Mandakini. I know her family, and she stays in a beautiful house which is perched on top of the hill and has this beautiful Devrai art village. Is indeed a picturesque, very rustic village with artisans and craftsmen creating metal art, and it's beautiful. And then she also has, just at the end of her property, the lovely cave where Meher Baba lives and who blesses Mandakini. Because I also somewhere follow Meher Baba. So to me, it's an honor to bring him into the conversation here, the spiritual leader or a guru who found a path. Many followers do follow Meher Baba. So Mandakini, that was really interesting, and you were very crisp and brief about your trajectory. So can you tell us a little more about your script writing, becoming a documentary filmmaker, and also an award-winning filmmaker, and especially about your film, The River Goddess? Which yes, go ahead.
When we shifted to Panchgani, I had done my this thing in cinema studies, but it was only after coming here that filmmaking for me became a means of exploring the forests and exploring this area, and that's how it was never a conscious choice of a career. In fact, whatever filmmaking I learned was on the job. So it was a way of connecting with people. So I started making films on not just environmental issues, but also with children. I was going to school and interacting with children, so on child-centric themes. I remember the first film we made was on the effect of advertising on children's food habits. And so the very process of making the film sensitized them to their food habits, junk food, what it does both to their body and their mind. So we did curious experiments like dissolving the tooth in Coke, and then experimenting and cleaning toilets with Coke to show how acidic it was. So the experience of making the film itself was a learning experience for the students about the issues involved. And then over a period of time, this film, when made, would generate kind of dialogues with other students. So it became a very nice resource material to start conversations and to make children sensitive to what is happening around them. And similarly, I found because filmmaking is, I think, such a powerful medium of storytelling, and the amount of access it can have to so many people, it becomes a potent tool of learning. And that's what I discovered. As a teacher, I was learning myself and sharing that thrill of learning through filmmaking and understanding various things around me. So even things like, observing nature, observing the change of seasons, communing with nature, I realized that our school education system is such that now Panchgani is a school town. If it has boarding schools, very old boarding schools, very prestigious. But each school has become like a citadel, and children rarely go out of their schools into the forest. So even if they have environmental science as a subject, it is more to pass in the exams and learn about it rather than connecting with nature. So one of my efforts was to make children, kindle love and curiosity. Only when you do that you can possibly think of making them sensitive and to nature, and protect and realize the need, how important it is. The air we breathe, the water and everything, without that, no amount of riches would help you in life if these basic things are not there. So in fact, that's how my journey into filmmaking began. And when we started, we were living in a rented place, and every day I would see River Krishna, the Krishna Valley. And my first film was I wanted to know about the river's journey. I knew it starts in Mahabaleshwar and goes right across the subcontinent to near Machilipatnam, where it meets the ocean. And so I wrote a story script looking for a god with River Krishna. And luckily, Films Division, they liked the idea of exploring not just the present, but the past cultures on the river. And I think I consider the River Krishna as my true guru, because the amount of insights into what is India I got while making this film, and the whole journey across the subcontinent, that it seeded my mind with so many stories, and it became later Indian culture, spirituality became the raw material for most of my writings and my film, and even what I do at Devrai Art Village. So let me just, share with you the map which I used in the film. So we are somewhere here. In Mahabaleshwar, and the river, as you would, it goes right across to Bay of Bengal, and and I found not just Hindu, Sri Sailam, and all Muslim culture, and also Buddhist culture at Nagarjunkonda and Amravati, the famous stupa of Amravati and Nagarjunkonda, and the two tributaries which meet Krishna, Bhima and Tungabhadra. So they have their own stories. So it was like really like a peephole into what is India. And when you're making a film, I think an image, I felt, for me, it was like an image can speak at many levels, and it doesn't have one narrative. So there's so much unsaid. You can speak just, and people take their own, interpret it in their own ways. So it is open to interpretations, like what it should be. And this is how the river for me was like a sutra, which combined all, which was the underlying kind of joining varied cultures, languages, religions all together. So it was a fascinating discovery for me. So this is how, and then this was my first film, which I made on celluloid for the Films Division. But meanwhile, like I told you, I had started exploring the surroundings and on a borrowed camcorder, and I was making films with children. And I'll just show you a glimpse of a video song which we made, because it was a part of mm, the 26th January celebrations, and it's called Plastike Hind. So Plastike Hind ka kuch karo. And the song was written by me and composed by the music teacher in school. And the children had a riot performing it in the marketplace, in their schools. And it was part of a cleanup campaign and sensitizing them to what plastic, the indiscriminate use of plastic and callous throwing of plastic bags and all is doing to nature. So, see.
देश के नौजवानों खुदा से डरो, देश के नौजवानों खुदा से डरो, देश के नौजवानों खुदा से डरो, काशी के हिंद का कुछ करो, कुछ करो, काशी के हिंद का कुछ करो, कुछ करो, काशी के हिंद का कुछ करो, कुछ करो। जानवर या कोई चिड़िया, या जल में विहरती वो हो मछलियाँ, वो जानवर या कोई चिड़िया, या जल में विहरती वो हो मछलियाँ, है किसको न इसने दबोचा भला, है किसको न इसने दबोचा भला, ये प्लास्टिक जो अपने ही भीतर पला, ये प्लास्टिक जो अपने ही भीतर पला, क्या हम बच पाएंगे, क्या हम बच पाएंगे, अरे कुछ तो करो, क्या हम बच पाएंगे, अरे कुछ तो करो, कातिले प्लास्टिक का कुछ करो, कुछ करो।
Oh, that was really lovely. आज के नौजवानों खुदा से डरो, plastic, very, very, what a wonderful social message, and so apt for today, Mandakini. Swachha Bharat is all about that, and I think you got it right even before this. And how wonderful. I visited Panchgani. I know it's a beautiful school town. To get the children to act it and do street plays and raise awareness. What a wonderful way. Truly you are, of course, an activist. You also wear an activist hat to your many achievements. Yes, that was a lovely Krishna, its journey. Do you want to say something more about it, or should I go to the next one?
So that's how my journey into filmmaking began. And while I was making the film on River Krishna, I came across Akka Mahadevi, the poetess saint, 12th century, who traveled on the banks of Krishna, they say, all naked, intoxicated with her love for Shiva. And at Sri Sailam, at Kardalivan, they say, much like, Meera, who disappeared in Dwarka, the temple of Krishna, she became one with Shiva. So later, I got an idea for a feature film. Apaka Usha is actually a feature film, and that's where I took a really professional help. I mean, till now, I was just making my own little films, my stories and shooting it myself and editing. My kids used to, Rudransh and Devansh would edit it on the home computer. But this Appa Akka was the feature film where I had Sudhir Palsani as DOP, much from the industry, big name, and even the editor and the sound, Vinith. And so it was a real professional crew who came on board. And actually for me, that was because I didn't know the technical, this thing of cinema. I would just tell Sudhir, the DOP, that I want this feeling, this thing. I don't know what lens, whatever, wherever you keep, but this is what. And I don't know, he understood it, and thus was born Appa Akka, which is the story of a Muslim girl who lives on the banks of River Krishna, and her quest for a god beyond religion. So much like Akka Mahadevi, she's inspired by Akka Mahadevi, who also walked along River Krishna and then became one with Shiva at Sri Sailam. This is the journey of Reshma, this little girl, and how she overcomes all her personal tragedies and finds her own meaning, her own. And River Krishna connects the two stories. So Reshma is the present day girl, it's happening in the present. And Akka Mahadevi, the story of Akka Mahadevi, both this gets connected through River Krishna. And now, after this feature film, I haven't made any other feature film, but I've been writing scripts. So even there was a Tiger's Cry. In fact, it was a big project, international project, and Shyam Benegal was going to direct it as the story of the Indian tiger, but through that is the story of the Indian jungles right from 1940s to the present time. The protagonist is a British girl who comes to India to be with her father, who's in the army, and Second World War is going on. But it's a saga of her struggle. So she grows up and she decides to stay back in India, and she and her partner, who's a tribal, they put up a fight against basically it's human greed, which sees all natural resources like something to be consumed. So all our jungles are getting decimated. All our, so it's based on actual facts, the actual this thing, but where tiger is a metaphor for, and it's a plea to preserve the last remaining jungles, not just the last remaining jungles, but the wilderness in our hearts, which connects us to nature. And the need to do that, the need to awaken our conscience and to what mankind is doing to nature. So that was the story. And similarly, then I also wrote, I want to share this because the other story, Chamkila Pani, was an animation film and based on two giant squirrel babies, Shekru, the Indian giant squirrel, which lives in the jungles in the Malabar, this thing, and in the Western Ghats. So it's a fiction story again, which tries to, and I wanted it much in the style of a Jungle Book, and where Shiva is one of the characters. And Shiva for me is actually is an embodiment of nature. And the message was that we Indians, we worship nature. We worship Shiva, like in the Bhima Shankar forest, where the setting of this film is. During Shivaratri, you go there and you worship Shiva but the way you litter the forests, and it's like defiling the very body of Shiva. We don't realize we have lost the meaning behind the rituals. We have lost the real significance of what is actually worshipping a river or a tree. Because we Indians, we worship nature, but do we take care of nature? This is what I wanted to say through the film. And uh, it's it's really something, because we are so deeply connected with nature, our ethos, our culture. But somewhere, I don't know what has happened to our psyche, that we have forgotten the real value, which all these rituals and stories and our whole literature is full of that. And our Vedas and all this were actually written in the forest. So that deep connect, I think, has got severed. And how to restore that connect is what I'm trying to do through storytelling, even through art as a medium to connect with nature. So when I went with this story of Chamkila Pani to one of a very big production house, I won't name, and their fear was that you were treading on something which was, which may provoke reactions. And here I was trying to explain to them that what I'm trying to say is Shiva is nature, and we have forgotten the real meaning of worship of Shiva. But I could not, I think they were too much on their guard. And when you want to do something, you have to stick your neck out a little bit. And that's what has happened to all our, I don't know, the intellectual media, even this thing, that we don't, either it is, I feel something which is alien to our culture, and we are criticizing our own culture. But what I want to do is, let's not, like, deepen the fault lines. Let's try to understand, like the river Krishna, how it taught me. It showed me how that it was unifying. There is a unifying, there's a cultural matrix from where these differences have come, but at the bottom there is something which holds us together, which makes us what we are, which we may call the essence of being an Indian. So we have accepted different things, but I mean, it should not be at the cost of uh, looking down upon our own this thing. Only when it is appreciated in the outside do we realize. So, in fact, much in the same vein as Plastic Hind, I had also written a song called Yoga Ho Gaya Yoga Bhaiya. The whole thing is a tongue-in-cheek comment that only when yoga comes from the West do we appreciate, whereas it is ours. So, uh, and so I could not convince them to take. They liked the story, they liked the script idea and all, but they were on their guard. And I will show you a little excerpt from another music video which I made. And for this, I got an artist from Amarkantak, a Gond artist. So it is an animation. The animation is very simple, and we did it at home. One Devansha's friend, Advait, who did. But I want to open the possibility of actually creating a visual expression which is Indian in nature, because we have Disney productions, we have anime from Japan and all. But to tell our own stories, we need a visual style which is in sync with our ethos, which are our feelings, the deeper feelings. So, although this song is it's I mean, not very sophisticated. We had very little means of animation. Means you really require money also. So, but this gold artist, he came, he stayed, and he drew all this Shiva. Shiva, I found, is as much a tribal deity as he is the mainstream Hindu. He's, I mean, the Brahmins worship him, people from all backgrounds and castes. So for me, Shiva is an icon who if you explore Shiva and the stories, you explore India and what is Indian, truly in nature. So, so this is about Shiva playing Holi in Banaras, in the burning ghats, in the cremation on the cremation grounds. And how does he play Holi? He's smeared with ashes. And I wrote in the thing that he's trying to copy Krishna, but his band of gopis is Bhoot, Pishach, Batori, Khele Masane Mein Hori. So just listen to that.
Sure.
अरे भूत पिशाच बटोरी दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होरी भूत पिशाच बटोरी दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होरी खेले मसाले में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होरी मगन अब सुध बिसरा के माता अम्बे देखे अचंबे मगन अब सुध बिसरा के माता अम्बे देखे अचंबे का करे ऐसे है योगी कैसी अजब ये लगन है लागी अरे काहे ये कृष्ण की कापी काहे ये कृष्ण की कापी दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होली चिता भस्म लपेटे ओ भोले खेले मसाले में होली खेले मसाले में होली दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होली नीलकंठ की जब अति प्यारी भटके चहु गंगाधारी नीलकंठ की छबनति प्यारी भटके चहु गंगाधारी बरसे हम पे कृपा सारी हर कैलाश से कन्याकुमारी अरे डमरू बजावत नाचे अघोरी खेले मसाले में होरी नचत सिंदूरधारी शंकर खेले मसाले में होरी खेले मसाले में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाले में होरी
That was really, really how arousing. That song was full of, the folk fervor, Mandakini. This is written by you. And what a beautiful Gond art, to depict this song.
Yes, a little, Yeah, but the thing is, uh, one could use Gond paintings and Patachitra and all these various styles we have uh, for creating our own visual style for animation and all, and
Yes,
story.
you know that today's children's storybooks, they do use Gond paintings and Gond art forms or illustrations to illustrate the story, or even
Yeah.
different. You know, the one from Maharashtra, the forget the name. What is the other?
Varli, Varli.
Yeah, yeah, Varli. You know, to depict or illustrate the story, and this way you keep your traditions alive. This is
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Go
I
ahead.
feel that, until unless we the storytelling arts of India dovetail into the needs, like film industry, it will be very difficult to sustain both the artist and the art form, because how many people can see puppetry, or all these different storytelling arts. So we need to kind of have this kind of synergy, so that people come, first of all, to document what is existing and to tell stories using these forms of storytelling arts. I think is much needed. Otherwise, they'll all, in this kind of onslaught of uh, the film and electronic media and all that, all these final, they have to come together. Only then can they enrich each other, and we, as India, we can create our own storytelling style. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
We are reinventing our stories. Like somebody said, if you want to restore the earth, restory yourself. And I think that's what we are doing. So, Mandakini, can you talk to us about this imaging the unimaginable and also Radha? So,
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
So the seeds for this imaging the unimaginable was sown, I think, 20 years ago, when I was again doing this River Krishna documentary. So it is an exploration of the understanding of divinity. Man has always tried to uh, understand what is the ultimate reality. And so that's where, you know imagination comes into play. That's how Indian art is all about, I think. That quest for understanding what is divine and expressing it using our limited senses, the five senses. So I think that has been the quest of the uh, for Indian art. So it's, and when I this book, which I'm now, first I thought I would make a kind of a film imaging the unimaginable, where I would be talking about my journey to Kailash Mansarovar, and also along the river, where I met both Shiva and Buddha. So Buddha, who's a human being and who avoided talking about what is divine and God, but lands up becoming, he's venerated 100 years after his life. In the Mahayana tradition, he's venerated, and there are bodhisattvas and the whole paraphernalia of taras and gods and goddesses. So here we have a human being who turns into a god, and Shiva is a concept who takes a human form. He has his own family. There is Parvati with her own cult and her following. Ganesh and Kartikeya have their own this thing. So how these stories uh, at at an emotional level, and both which tie up both the intellectual and the emotional. I always feel, a thought without feeling is as ineffective as a feeling without thought. So both of them have to come together in order to communicate. If you want to talk about the deeper meaning or the real meaning of the ultimate reality. I don't know. I think I'm lapsing into something because I'm actually floundering now. I have these few stories. The narrative structure of the film is I'm finding difficult to be, because my mind, I feel, instead of a linear this thing, it's I get a panoramic. I go in all this thing and then see connections in that. So now coming back to the mixing of, the thought and feeling joining together. So I feel that that's how Jnana Yoga is, and the Bhakti Yoga have to join hands, and only then will it find expression in Karma Yoga. And this is so beautifully explained by many when they say that the Purush, the Purush, the ultimate, the Brahman or the conscience, he has the Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. It's only through this that Prakriti evolves, when there is Ichha Shakti, and then the Prakriti comes into being, or the whole Brahmand. So from the conscious, this thing, the Brahman, how the whole real world is born. And although it is, both are the same, it's not that they are separate. I think, without lapsing into much philosophy. So imaging the unimaginable, I'm finding difficult to communicate, because that is what the whole book is about. So it's about Shiva, it's about Buddha. It's my personal journey, how I see Shiva and Buddha, and what it is, what my journey to Kailash Mansarovar, and then when I went to Banaras, and also along River Krishna. So it's my personal journey in quest of imaging the unimaginable.
Wonderful. I'm eagerly awaiting the release of the book and to read, because definitely I too am at the stage where, you put it very succinctly, imaging the unimaginable. I wonder whether the unimaginable could even be imaged. But of course, as an artist, I guess one can. Moving on, Mandakini, I want to know this. How did this, your encounter with tribal alchemist Suresh sir, happened, and a very well-known documentary filmmaker and an alchemist came together to create Devrai Art Village. And before you get onto it, I want to inform the listeners that Devrai Art Village was our venue when Mumbai Storytellers Society, we had our first international storytelling festival, Mumbai International Storytelling Festival. We partnered with Devrai Art Village and had our festival in the beautiful hillside city of, or town or hamlet of Panchgani. So over to you, Mandakini.
So I met Suresh Pungati, who was an Adivasi, who is an Adivasi artist, but he was teaching art in the same school where I was interacting with students. And that was the time when we had just got this piece of land where Devrai is now a house, and the art village also is. And there was the whole place was pretty much barren, and when we called it Devrai, it was more aspirational. And yes, one of the reasons why we moved from Mumbai, especially for Atul, who's passionate about growing trees, was to be able to grow and to stay rooted and connected with the earth. So that's how we came to Panchgani. So when I met Suresh sir, I came to know about the plight of his community, the Adivasi community in Gadchiroli, where they are caught between the state and the Naxalites, these Adivasis, and how their art was, they were not being able to do. The metal craft had almost, there was not a single person doing for lack of resources and no marketing and all those things. So, and we had just about got this piece of land. So the umbar tree, the Ficus glomerata tree, which Usha, in fact, even the Mist Festival started. One of the stories was the story of the tree. So that tree, I always wanted to do something under the tree. And so when Suresh sir came, it was, I think it was not just a coincidence, it was fated that that tree, something had to happen under the tree. And so with just 3 people from his native place, from Gadchiroli, work began in 2008. And now it's been, 13 years? And from 3 people, we have grown into a community of 50 artisans. People from Chhattisgarh have also joined, men and women. And our main emphasis is, to sustain our heritage, but how do you sustain a 5,000-year-old heritage? So you have to make it relevant to the present times. It has to appeal to contemporary tastes and designs and needs, so that the artist is able to sell. And because until and unless the artist survives, the art cannot survive. So this was the question at the back of my mind. And so we started experimenting and with the medium and the design ideas. And Devrai Art Village now is more a research, R&D center for metal craft, and we grew organically. So first, when our experiment of fusing stone and brass, which had never happened before, was successful. This we call it Devrai Rock Dhokra, and now it is our very identity, and it's under patent process. So let me show you something, in fact, which I have. Yeah. So this dancing Nandi, it's quite heavy. I'll come to the story of the dancing Nandi later, but let me talk about the fusion of stone and brass. So what you're seeing here is the stone part, and this is the brass, and this is completely fused with each other, even the base. And once this was successful, it kind of gave us wings. Then, of course, we started exploring other mediums, terracotta and brass fusion, ceramic and brass fusion, and all these things. Now, I feel now Devrai Art Village has really got a momentum of its own, and it's growing. And we are also getting interns and students from design schools, from art schools. Like just now we have 2 girls from New York, Parsons University of Art, learning rock dhokra here. So it's like then I really felt the need to make our mainstream our design schools and this thing, give them an exposure and an insight into our own indigenous arts. Like our 2 kids, they have also gone to Srishti, and which is a design school in Bangalore, and interns from NID and all come here. But I feel there is a need for a place where children can, or youth, or anybody interested, the urban people can come and actually experience with artisans, actually create their own stuff along with artisans and not having to go to remote, far-flung tribal areas. So to give a feel and insight and experience and exposure of our own indigenous arts is one of the aims of Devrai Art Village. And we know our art schools and all, we know much more about Western arts and European arts and all than our own rich heritage. So that's all. These are with this giving livelihood options to the tribals and exposing our youth and mainstream to the richness of our culture is the raison d'être of Devrai Art Village. And yes, in fact, I must share, Usha, I don't know if I've told you, that I don't know for whatever reasons, the new education policy, which we have recently come up with, the UGC. I'm on the board for advisory board for the Department of Art and Aesthetics. So I'm hoping that I'm able to create something which will enable our children to actually use our own traditional arts and crafts. And there's tremendous hidden knowledge which one can't fathom. Like when my iron craftsman from Chhattisgarh, when I see him making his own tools or making, just as an experiment, because we take scrap iron and we beat it but he created iron out of earth, iron ore, in his primitive way. And how to make rust-free iron, all these things we've lost. We've lost all the techniques, which the knowledge of each medium, whether it is metals or terracotta, or it would create so much of wealth of knowledge for physics, chemistry, everything, apart from the art itself and making different tools. So I'm looking forward to this new education policy where art is not given weightage as a subject, but more than that, it is to be used as a means of teaching other subjects. So it is called art integrated learning. Like Usha, you yourself, through your safari thing, through storytelling. So by art, it's not just the plastic arts, it's the performing arts, it's the storytelling arts. So we need to bring this, and art means creativity. It means creative thinking. It means having not just the right and wrong answer, but according, so the evaluation system also has to be overhauled, because our examination system, which just gives you marks on the basis of whether this is right or wrong, that needs to change, because there are many possibilities, and it inspires you to become creative.
Yes.
I strongly feel that the English speaking education system, the Macaulayization of our education system has done much harm to us than the slavery under the British, because it has enslaved our minds, our thinking, which continues even now.
Yes. I don't want to get into that, because that can really bring about a huge thing. Yes, we are still enslaved. Some of us are still so enslaved to the colonial rule and the colonial beliefs that I don't want to go into it. But Mandakini, people like you, who are working at the grassroots, reviving our tradition and culture by going back into the rural, or going away from the urban cities into the small towns and reviving our art. And I was just thinking, as I was listening to you talk, that Devrai could also have a school of design on its own, something like the Parsons or the NID, because both your sons are also, artists in their own rights. And why not? You already have artists in residence. And I want to tell all the viewers of Storytellers Cafe, especially in the United States, that Devrai Art Village has it's already established its mark. You just have to see it. You ask any architecture, any design consultant, people are already aware of Devrai Art Village. So do make it a point. I'm sure there are scores of visitors who come to Panchgani and Mahabaleshwar only to visit Devrai Art Village. And it's a beautiful tour that Mandakini personally takes you around. If she is there when that she is most of the time around the beautiful Devrai Art Village. And you can see for yourself, like you said, the tribal craftsmen beating the metal and then shaping them and giving it a story. And I was thinking, Mandakini, of course, you have your own metal stories out of the dancing Nandi, the peacock, but and we used Devrai Art Village as a story. What was that story trail? So we stopped at every little nook or a space, and we picked up a story out of the stone or the metal that was crafted, and the storytellers told that story. So one can have a stone metal story event by itself, and the land itself. It's so beautiful. There's so much to our own. Uh, um, let's say the earth or mother earth, or connecting with nature. And also I just want you to sign off and end with a pet subjects, which is both for us sustainable future, sustainable storytelling. And is there going to be a sustainable storytelling festival? Because there are wonderful artists who have settled down in Panchgani. So can you tell us about that as your parting
Yeah, that would be really great. Because Panchgani as a place is also been declared an eco-sensitive zone, and it is a biodiversity rich. Uh, it comes under in biodiversity hotspots, one of the 24 biodiversity hotspots of the world. So there's a need for this kind, even though it is declared an eco-sensitive zone. But actually, what we see is the mushrooming of all the amusement parks, and there's nothing in the name of ecotourism, a real ecotourism, which will make the tourist who comes here, I mean, be in awe of the wonderful nature here. Rather, I find it such a pity that a person from city is again goes into a roller coaster ride here, which is there right in front of the Rai Art Village. So how so much of an opportunity lost? Because see, Panchgani after all is Panchgani because it's a hill station. Otherwise, it would have no tourists. And if we don't kind of make this remain a hill station, that will be the end of Panchgani. So there's a need for that. And yes, we shall. I think let's work towards it. Yes.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah.
I copy that. Definitely I'm all there with you to support you on this endeavor. And what a beautiful place to have a sustainable storytelling festival, surrounded by the hills and the forests and the land itself, and so many schools. So you have
Yeah, that's it. We have a whole school town, and see, everywhere it is changing, but the pace at which it is changing, which one is witnessing in Panchgani, is frightening, because the influx of tourists and all, if we don't sow the seeds of caring for nature and the need for preservation, we are really on a downhill, actually going on a downhill slope, right to destruction, self-destruction. So, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think Devrai Art Village always, we are trying to connect with nature through the medium of art. So whether it is our stories or it is our art, and like right now we are making the flowers of caste. There's caste plateau here, world famous site for wildflowers. So we're making them in metal, and
Wonderful.
like a little memento of Panchgani. So all these things, how to make people aware, because let's
Yeah.
not take nature for granted, because it's not going to remain for long if we just are so callous to it.
But now, after listening to you, Mandakini, at the end of our session, I can really imagine the unimaginable. Because as an artist working with metal and cast iron and rocks and even floral motifs, I think one can see the unimaginable. Thank you so much, Mandakini, for bringing a wonderful insight into Storytellers Cafe, taking us through your journey through Devrai Art Village. And would you like to say something where we can then close the session?
No, it was sometimes, when you start talking, you discover yourself. And I think somewhere a penny has dropped. Like when Usha said about the sustainable thing, I think the time is ripe to do something to save nature, to do your little bit, whatever you can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our listeners who have tuned in. Please drop your comments on the chat box. Let us know if you have any questions for Mandakini, she'll be more than happy. Do follow her Instagram handle, Devrai Art Village, as well as Mandakini Mathur, where she does come up with videos every day about what's happening at Devrai Art Village. It's a story in itself. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you all a wonderful Republic Day. If I'm not mistaken, India became a republic in 1950. So this should be our 71st Republic Day. Mandakini, if I'm not mistaken, we are 2021 or 70th.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Yes. So wishing you all a wonderful Republic Day. So Bajega Bharat, Jhumega Bharat.
Yeah.
And a wonderful day for all the viewers in the United States, and a lovely evening, especially to all my dear friends in Panchgani and to Bombay as well as the rest of India. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत झूमेगा भारत.